what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do that? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
Got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Welcome to episode 31 of The Coaches Show. I'm Mike Bianca, coach of the New Orleans Hurricanes. And with me as always is my friend and co-host, Ryan Gray, coach of AC Diesel. Our guest tonight is none other than the president of Major League Paintball, Tom Cole. Tonight's episode will include taking questions from you, the audience. So if you have something relevant to the topic at hand or in general, get them into the live chat or post them on our Facebook page and we'll try to get to you. We have some incredibly exciting news that will be released here tonight. So call your friends. They won't want to miss this announcement. Plus more about the Mid-Atlantic Major and, of course, a new announcement for the Coaches Show. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. For all your custom paintball goods, get Maxed.
Get
so
Maxed.
Do we want to make the announcement about our newest sponsor?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think now's as good a time as any. So we've been talking about some partnerships we've been developing. This is kind of the first one in that. So we would like to welcome BKI Paintball as the newest sponsor of the Coaches Show. Also, we will be releasing all of our future curriculum with BKI. Our show will continue to be on Major League Paintball's YouTube channel, but all the curriculum will be done through BKI. So we'll soon have a link for you guys to be able to jump on and join BKI right through the show, as well as being able to book time with Mike and I. Obviously, you can still do that other ways, but there'll be ways you can do that straight through BKI. So lots of cool stuff coming. We're going to revamp some of the things that are on the page and put out some new kind of fresh content. Also had great conversations with Anthony about potentially adding a couple of new professors. So Mike and I are really excited to be partnered with Anthony and Laurie and be a part of that BKI family. So thank them and you'll be able to see some cool stuff coming.
I'm excited about working on the curriculum and continuing to build that. So if you're interested in the coaching aspect of paintball, be sure to check us out on BKI. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, Chris Hudson was talking about wanting to be here. He's going to be here next week to give us kind of the download on the ICPL just this weekend in Dallas. We're going to talk to Tom a little bit about that as well. I don't know what it is with Dallas and paintball, but something about it. Yeah, something about it just doesn't happen well. So I guess let's bring Tom in and we'll start talking about what's happening.
That's right.
Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Cole.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So before we kind of give out the big announcement, let's go back to sort of what the steps have been to sort of get to where we are today. So let's go back to the rebranding. What was the point kind of rebranding to Major League Paintball?
I mean, there's several different reasons, but the primary reason was just to make it an easy brand for someone that didn't know anything about paintball to understand what the brand was. I feel like all of our brands and all of our acronyms before are always a little hard to understand. And X-ball being like a format of paintball that most people don't play when they play traditional paintball. I just thought it'd be better to kind of fall in line with regular sports and thus the Major League Paintball logo and the brand name. I mean, I'd gone to so many sports trade shows, and I've said this before, but we were the only sport that you couldn't tell what we were by our sign. Everybody else, you got the, youth bowling league or the, Asian basketball league. They're all very evident what they are. And then there I was with the NXL, National X-Ball League, which no one knew what it was. I had some people think it was some weird form of football and different stuff like that. So I just thought it was a better brand. And also, in the trademark department, we had the NXL was kind of a convoluted trademark as to who was going to own that in the long run. There's lots of teams back in the original NXL era, lots of different ownership of that domain. So we decided to go with something that was fresh and hadn't really been used before.
Yeah, smart. So as you guys were kind of, again, you're talking about going to all these trade shows where you're seeing, really the big players from all the other major sports leagues. Was Sportel, that you guys did Sportel this summer, I guess last summer, was that part of this sort of plan to try to move towards some sort of more consumable?
I had actually gone a year ago. So I went on they gave me a free walkthrough day. So they gave me a VIP pass so I could go through and kind of talk with everybody. And that's where I saw, you saw the big players there, right? And they were all wheeling and dealing, kind of selling their rights off to different markets across the world. And yeah, that was really put us on that thing. I realized that was a good platform to kind of get started. It's expensive, I think it's a $30,000 trade show or something to kind of,
Wow.
You would think, like the NFL, Major League Baseball, all those guys, that's not a barrier to entry to them. You know what I mean? It's really just for us small emerging sports that feel the pain, but I felt like it was a necessary thing that we had to do to try and make the step. I mean, because that's all we talk about, right? As an industry, is how to get on TV and how to make it more spectator friendly and all that. You got to take that next step and try and see what it's going to take to do it. So we set it up. We went to that show. There was a lot of interest. We're in their segment for announcing out for the regular world. We got on the news through all that over in Europe. We've had a lot of different companies reached out to us because of that show. We got Caffeine and a couple other people around the world that have started to license the rights from us to rebroadcast our game. So I thought it was pretty successful.
Actually,
yeah, so
that's a great segue. I was going to ask, if you don't mind, let's talk about Caffeine TV a little bit. How is Caffeine TV working out for the MLPB? I mean, and how did that kind of happen?
So literally, that was one of the people we met at the show that was like, hey, we're launching this. It's called a fast channel, right? And that means that it's advertised based, right? So it's almost like the original linear TV where you would watch, 12 minutes of programming and you get 4 minutes of commercials and then 12 minutes of programming, right? That went away for a little while, but none of the OTT channels, which is like the Disney Channel or, ESPN Plus or whatever, none of them have really found a way to be financially viable. They've all been fighting into this market share and no one's really winning. So then they started to go back to fast channels, which is basically just like old linear TV, but now it's done through an OTT platform. So now your shows are being watched and being paid for by commercial advertisers. So Amazon, a lot of the shows on Amazon now you'll notice has a free with commercials type option. So Caffeine is a fast TV. I think they're part of the Fox family, but don't quote me on that. And they're going all extreme sports. They just picked up Live Golf a little while ago. And they felt like we would be a good person on there. And some of our stuff gets a crazy amount of viewership over there. I'm a little suspect of their numbers.
Okay.
Anybody that Googles it will find out that I'm not the only person suspect of the numbers. But it's still opening up eyes. And we definitely, every day we have people reaching out to us that we didn't know before through seeing all of our stuff, right? So it's a pretty cool time.
Okay. That's excellent.
I didn't know about the Live Golf thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they just signed Live. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So kind of thinking about now moving things forward, is there a possibility that we could see Split Deck as it relates to Go Sports specifically, that we could see Split Deck go away as it relates to the broadcast itself?
Absolutely not. That's some wishful thinking there. So we, I believe, Go Sports is its own entity, right? So they do their own thing. But I believe Split Deck is a necessary evil to keep the price down. And so I think they should just film only one half of it.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm saying. Specifically as it relates to the production of what we see on Go Sports. Like, I understand there may be another match playing, but Go Sports only producing the show for that one match.
So you're
and that's
talking
my dream idea,
correct?
but it is a little more complicated than that. Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that because we would then have to limit the amount of game time for any one game, if that makes sense, right? You couldn't have a 9-minute point while we were doing that split deck one game streaming type situation because we wouldn't be able to eat up the 12 minutes. I believe that's part of the problem. Yeah, in a post-produced show, we would always try and make it a non-split type situation. But
yeah, of course,
on the live stuff, it may be a little more harder.
Yeah.
And I'm all for capping the amount of game time, but it would change the way the game is played.
Yeah, we don't want to change the product.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
We're always dying to change the product.
I know.
We're dying
because of what you just said. 9-minute game.
I'm never down with actually pulling the trigger on a lot of the changes, but I'm always down for talking about changes.
Right.
But that is something that's come across my desk a lot for a lot of conversations I've had with players where they talked about post-production, right? Talking about, YouTube and Go Sports and et cetera and MLPB and why are we not maybe doing a little bit now that we've got so many camera angles out there, especially with, and I'd imagine there's probably some logistical issues with this and time and cost, but they talk about that post-production of a match that can help tell the story, that can help create those stories, that can help create those personalities. You see it making maybe the average viewer or maybe not a person familiar with paintball more intrigued, more interested in what's necessarily happening.
Yeah, and that's true. But the reason, keep in mind, it's like wag the dog, right? So the reason why we have live sports and the reason why live sports are so powerful, because the advertising pays for that, right? So right now you get more bang for your buck out of live advertising than you do any other way, right? So, the last 100 most watched shows in the last year, whatever, they're like 99 of them have been the NFL football game. But live sports, so just picture if we had a show that lived forever, right? We might have, if you watch the old ones, you'll see a Spider ad, right? Or a WDP ad. So those ads are no longer relevant, right? So it's only in live sports that you have a captive audience. And that's why it's demanding so much money right now, is because of live sports. Now, our product is interesting, right? So live is not always the best system, but it is still the holy grail of broadcast television is live sports. And that's why everybody's trying to do it. Now, do I agree? We probably are going to have to sell this slowly and do a post-produced show. But once we get that and once we've created a little bit of a fan base, I do think live would be a final goal.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent.
Agreed.
Okay.
Just seems like there's a better way.
Everything is a lot easier with broadcast money coming in, right?
Totally.
Someone's going to pay, $500,000 for an episode or something, that changes some of our restrictions that we currently have.
So let's talk about the news. Just tell us what's going on.
Big announcement here, everybody. Should we have a drum roll or anything or something like that?
Will,
all the other shows have the buttons.
So I don't know when the last time we were on TV as an industry. It's been a while. But we will be airing on ESPN the Atlantic City Major League Paintball will be on ESPN. It'll be on a show called The Ochos. Everybody's gonna have to Google that. But The Ochos is kind of a parody off of the Dodgeball movie where they were like, and here we are on ESPN 8. So since then, ESPN has kind of embraced that, and they've been doing a show once a year to show emerging sports and different kinds of crazy sports, weird sports, but also emerging sports. It's where some of our sports brethren have got their chance, like cornhole is definitely one of the sports that made their big move from the Ochos into being a regular on ESPN.
Okay.
So there it is. We're on ESPN. The Ochos.
We'll be on ESPN. When was the last time? When was the last time we were on TV? I don't know when.
I think it was 2007.
I was going to say 2008, but
yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I think this is a huge move, a huge deal. I'm tired. We had a long weekend, but so I don't always come across as excited as I should. But yeah, I think it's the biggest thing we've had happen since 2008.
So
and
how
I
did
think
this?
we're in a better place than we were then to bring it to show it. You know what I mean? It's pretty captivating.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And how did this come about? So, obviously, Sportel, Caffeine TV, all of these things are leading into this. But I think there's a really interesting story on how you got it done.
Yeah, so I follow all the other sports, right? So that's one of the things I do. I sign up for all these, emerging sports like cornhole, axe throwing, dart league. The waddle league is specifically the league that I'm talking about, which is axe and knife throwing. And I saw in one of their newsletters that they were filming for ESPN, and you could buy tickets to actually be at the show. The show was in Tulsa, which is about 11 hours from me. So I bought a $50 VIP ESPN viewing thing, drove from here to Tulsa, stayed the night in Tulsa, got up in the morning, went to the show, was the first guy there. Went in while they were getting set up, and I went straight to the first guy in an ESPN polo, handed him my card and said, I think you guys need paintball on ESPN. He actually was an outside guy named Evan. He's one of the commentators, and he's like, I agree completely. And I can't remember now if he said he played or one of his roommates played or whatever, but he thought it was great. So while I was watching the show, getting ready, he went ahead and emailed some people at a production company that work with ESPN. And then I got back and I did a call with them while we were at Texas. And then they introduced me to a bunch of people over at the ESPN folks. We did a couple Zoom calls. They watched our footage from the World Cup, and we signed a deal today.
That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. I love the fact that you saw an opportunity and took it. We're always talking about that on the Coaches Show. We're talking about creating your own opportunities. Great job, Tom. And I'm glad that we got that story out on the show so that people could hear that. Well done. Well done. I'm incredibly impressed. So now that we've got this, how's this going to work? So we talked about, you said that Atlantic City will be on ESPN, the Ochos on ESPN. Can you give us any type of idea on what that production is going to be like?
Yeah, so we will be filming throughout the weekend to get like some side stories and be real and stuff like that. So they will be covering, we have 23 minutes of showtime, which is not a lot, right? When you add in the commercials and stuff like that. But they are going to, we will film the stuff, whatever, but primarily we will be capturing game footage for the final game. So most of that will revolve around that final match. So obviously we will get some stuff showing, like how we got there and the road to the finals and all that stuff. But we will put a lot of effort into that last 45-minute match. We have we're doing some special filming stuff there to try and make it a little better than what we currently have, a little more ready for TV. But we will also be doing it post-produced so we can tell the story better. And we're going to be adding the other camera angles, whether those are on-gun gang angles, which is something we're talking about with the production company, or just more video that shows, like, every time you watch the overhead or the webcast, it's very, like, I'm trying to say it, it's very top-heavy, right? But when you watch a highlight reel afterwards, you get all the cool moves and all the cool plays and all the paint hitting everybody and stuff. So we're going to kind of inlay those together to make it a more compelling story and very exciting. That's the plan.
That's awesome.
That is the plan.
I'm excited to see. It's going to be like a MTV music video.
It's going to be like an MTV music video.
So knowing what we know now, right?
Anymore.
Right. Knowing kind of what we know now, right? With a blind layout. So what is AC going to look like? Because we still don't really have an official announcement. So we're playing the finals on Thursday.
Playing the finals in Texas on the Texas layout on
Thursday.
On Thursday.
Okay.
And then the timing of the blind layout for the pro field is Jason Trozen question. But then we will reset up the blind layout that day, I believe Thursday afternoon. Everybody can walk the field, and then we'll start Friday morning playing the blind layout. The layout is going to be specifically designed for ESPN, right? The last thing that we want as an industry is a 2-point match, a 1-1, 2 guys on 2 guys, no one wanting to die. So we are going to, Jason has been, his challenge is to make it something that's going to be a mover and a shaker, and keep things going. And then we're also going to ask the teams to not let's take one for the group here and kind of make sure we play balls to the wall in the finals.
Interesting.
Okay. So from a team perspective too, there's a little more on the line, right? Like if you're one of those 2 teams in the finals, your story is going to be told.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think most of the teams are going to get touched. That's kind of our goal. It's kind of have all the pro teams touched a little bit as far as the coverage, but it's going to be really hard with a 23-minute show where I think we have actually 15 minutes exactly of gameplay, right? So it only gives us 8 minutes inside there.
Right.
So yeah, that part it'll be challenging. That's for sure.
So Jordan in the
Jordan
comments
Cotter
has asked a question. Yeah, that's exactly kind of where I was going next. So if it's going to be a blind layout for the pros and a different layout for the divisionals teams won't play their finals on the pro field. Those, I assume, will be on the premier field.
So that is correct. So because of the filming and the additional stuff that we have to do for the filming, we will be closing the pro field down for approximately 3 hours. So we have to reset up for the filming at ESPN.
Got it.
So, I mean, and that's one of the interesting things when I went to the axe throwing championship, right? So they only filmed the finals for their stuff, and they actually had 2 different venues. They had the preliminary venue, which was somewhere else, and then the final venue. And while the other prelims are going on, ESPN is just setting up all their cameras and getting ready. And you think of paintball, we are back to back grinding. And none of us could afford a 4-day ESPN filming, right? That's more than the Super Bowl. That's more like so no one in that side of the world is looking at stuff like that where they're thinking, let's do a 48 or a 30-hour straight filming, right? So they want to come in Sunday at 8 a.m. and start setting up and be out of there at 4. So we have to give them that 3-hour window to kind of get some stuff set up.
Yeah, makes sense.
It does. Okay.
Okay, so what is the show? Do you have an idea conceptually of what the show is going to look like, or is ESPN taking the product and they're going to do with it what they will?
No. We will be helping it. We've actually already seen basically the roadmap, right? We obviously don't know what teams are going to be in it. It's not making it's scripted,
Sure.
They don't know what teams are going to be in it, but they have basically, how it's going to go. They're going to say, 1 minute of highlight reels, 1 minute of an intro, 1 minute of, whatever, coolest game in the world. They have it all mapped out. And that's one of the reasons we have an outside production company working with us to try and help us make this for TV. So they have lots of experience in pro sports on ESPN. So we're letting them guide us a little bit, but we're also keeping some creative control so that we can make sure it's what we want, right? We don't want a bunch of just splats, right? We always make that joke that whenever you see an outside person do something, they put a big splat on it. That's we've been there, done that. So we're trying to have something a little edgier, but they've been great. We've had lots of calls with them so far. I shouldn't say lots, quite a few Zoom calls with them where we've gone through stuff. They've watched our footage. So on that side, it's pretty cool.
That's interesting. That outside production company, that's exciting. Get a fresh look on things, and while you're sitting there with your hand over their shoulder guiding, that's smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So any idea when the show may air?
August 2nd through 4th.
Oh, we know. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so,
another big announcement.
And you had said on there that something about there's more to play for. And so this came about fast, right? So you think about it, we were March, whatever, when was Texas? March or April, the end of April. And so, the Ochos are getting, it's a fixed date that we have to have this delivered by. And so I had even pitched maybe doing a special tournament a standalone thing, and they were like, you know, the fans won't be as engaged, the teams won't be engaged. You can't fake that type of, you know, buildup. So, and I think they were dead on with that, right? So the fact that this is actually the Mid-Atlantic Open, which is a storied event forever at Atlantic City, which is going to be a good backdrop, and now you all start putting 2 and 2 together while we're in Atlantic City. You know that it can be pretty. It should be pretty epic. And we if we can get the industry behind it and all the players and teams from all assets of paintball to kind of come together and watch this, there is a real story forward. You know what I mean?
So that was my next. Excuse me. That was my next question. What does ESPN, or have they communicated to you, what would success look like for this show? What kind of numbers are they looking for? What can we do as a community, as a paintball community, to make sure that this thing is successful and watched and ESPN takes notice?
So the biggest thing we got to do, and ESPN has not given me a number. They do have stuff in the contract about how we would move forward and what that looks like. But primarily what we need is just eyes on it, right? We need to stay, you know, there's going to be, I don't know what negative thing people could come about being on TV, but someone's going to come up with something, right? And we just kind of, you know, need to work together for a little while and keep this thing positive and make sure everyone we know watches it, right? And then, you know, if you own a park or you own a store, let's make sure you tell everybody, hey, why don't we tune into ESPN to watch this, right? Because in the end, the more eyes we get on it, the more successful we're going to be. And, you know, so we're going to try and take this for everything it's worth and get it out there and kind of do what we can.
Excellent.
So is there any like metric we're trying to get, trying to hit in order to be able to get more airtime, more opportunities like this?
So they won't, like, I even asked them today, I was like, you know, what is your average viewership of the Ochos, right? So some of this stuff is public, right? So the Nielsen's ratings will come out, right? Like after this. And I think it's, you know, I think an average show is getting 200,000 views. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's a show now currently on OTT platforms. So we need to get 200,000 people to watch. So you're just going to have some native watchers, right? Because it's going to play at bars. It's going to play everywhere, right? But we just need our community to kind of really step up and watch it.
Is the Nielsen thing still like real?
Yes.
Yes.
I know, but is it
real.
real?
Yes.
Like, I know it still exists, but isn't it people watching on devices and all those kind of things? Like, you can't track all that, right?
Actually, it's the opposite. The more devices they have, the easier it is to track, right? So the previous Nielsen was done by things attached to, like, you know, 12 people's TVs, and if one person watched, they said that was 100,000 views, right? So,
Right.
And now it's a lot more technical. But whether it's real or imaginary or whatever you think they got going on with it, it's what their world uses to justify whether you stay on TV or not.
So if I have 5 devices in my house, I should turn them all on.
Definitely turn them all on and play it for a long
Okay.
time.
100%.
And turn it all on when axe throwing comes on. make sure we win that bout, not just that ESPN has got the viewer.
Charlie from 5 Stars asking, is there any way to watch over in Europe?
I'm sure there's a VPN over in Europe that you can use. I don't know, to be honest with you. So they've told me that they expect it also to air on the ABC app, I believe.
ABC app.
So and obviously they're optimistic. You know, they aren't picking stuff to put on there they don't think is going to be successful. So they're hoping that this gets picked up and gets showed a bunch of times. You know what I mean? So I think the original ESPN stuff we did was showed hundreds of times, even though we were only told it was going to air one time.
I think we should be able to crush 200K easy. We should be able to crush 200K easy. You know, if that's the native, I think we should see a significant increase over that. I would hope. I really would.
Let's hope
We've
so.
got to.
But I mean, that's the thing. You know, we don't want this to be a secret, right? We don't want it to be like, oh, that came on Tuesday. You know what I mean? We want everybody to know. And I don't know what time it's going to air. For all we know, it might air at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? But the other nice thing about the Ochos is that it's an actual show, right? So they're like, a series of stuff that people are waiting for. They've actually seen huge growth in this program. I think it's up 275%, something like that. Some crazy number that it's been growing. So we're optimistic. I think if anybody knows me, I think I'm pretty optimistic all the time. So.
Well, I see this, and I'm sure
one of my things, right? I'm always thinking something's going to work. So
you have
nothing
to
wrong
be
with that.
doing your job. Yeah.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the opportunities that are being created here, and I keep using that word, but from a promotional perspective, right? From the outside, additional advertisers coming into our sport. I'd assume this is really the end game, the end goal. This is the direction we want to be moving by getting onto TV, the Ochos, right? We get more people like Hurts.
So we brought in an outside consultant to kind of talk to us about how to get to an outside sponsor, right? And all of the conversations always circled back to TV, right? That's where everything happened, right? Because we have a native market, we have we'll call an endemic marketplace, right? So our people are playing paintball. That's our endemic consumer. We can advertise to them, but that's not really what the outside world wants because we have such a small market. We have a small, passionate market. They really want the outside average Joe to watch it and then be influenced because they see something come on while they're watching our show, right? So Hertz is gonna. I mean, we have to reach out to Hertz tomorrow to kind of just go through everything with them, but Hertz is going to make the deal of a lifetime because they came on as a sponsor of an on-field logo, and now here they're going to have that on-field logo on TV as part of their residual deal. So I'm hoping we crush it for them, and then that makes them want to stay on or bring in some other outside people.
And you had another sponsor too, right? Didn't you just get a new?
We have someone that we're working on that was trying to do something rapidly. A lot of these people, they come in, they see stuff. They saw it actually on Caffeine TV, and they wanted to do something, but it was just too fast on their end. So we're either going to push it back to World Cup or hopefully for next year. I mean, a lot of these companies' budgets are like earmarked out way, way, way in advance, So they saw an opportunity and they hit us up, and we've tried to make it work out, but it just hasn't come through yet.
Gotcha. So from a sponsorship perspective, ESPN, Hertz, could this possibly lead to a true professional division where we have player endorsements, franchises, things like that? Am I making sense? Am I asking this question correct?
Yes. I mean, I think it opens up a whole new world, right? Because right now it just changes everything, right? Stuff that wasn't feasible before is feasible now. I mean, and it comes down to, we'll use Caitlin Clark, right? So Caitlin Clark comes into the WNBA, and their viewership is through the roof, right? They've already sold more tickets than they did all last year. Everybody's numbers are up. The teams are having a good time, right? So it comes down to, people buying into whether our players, hopefully our players aren't shits, right? And people look up to them, and that's how you get that outside sponsorship. You want kids to look up to them and want to be like them, and then that's how that starts, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion. I'm by no means an expert, but I am creeping on it. Creeping on it all the time.
So talk a little bit about, and I'm not trying to shift gears away from where Mike's going because I think it's interesting. I just think we could talk about the what ifs for 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Let's secure the date before we start wondering where we're going to go for dinner. You know what I mean? Or whether we're getting married or not. You know what I mean? Let's get this first date out the way.
So to talk about, since Dallas, what have you been doing?
Chilling.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my calendar. That's why I'm looking behind me. So let's go right before Texas. So I went to the NAB show, which is the National Association for Broadcasters. I flew there on the 14th, which is Sunday. We did the show for Monday, Tuesday. I flew back on the 17th, 18th, 19th. I was home. The 20th, I went to Tulsa for the Axe Throwing Championship. On the 21st, I went to Texas. We spent a lovely, lovely week in Texas. I came back. I was home for a week. Then I went to Frankfurt for the IMAX show, which is the European or the rest of the world's version of where you find venues, and also meet with travel people. So we actually had a really good meeting with Delta Airlines, but really their parent group. What is that? The Sky Group or something like that. What is the name of Delta's overall group? Do you know? Delta Airlines. Okay. All right. Well, Delta Airlines, we met with them. We had a good meeting with them. And then I flew from IMAX Frankfurt to Lisbon. We did the Lisbon to EU event. And then we did the ICPL Classic there, which was really cool, actually. It was a pretty cool event. We came back from that. And then I basically was home for 3 days. And then I went to Dallas, Texas to do another event, another pleasant week. And now I'm home today, and I leave tomorrow for Arizona to go to a venue show, a U.S. venue show. And I am meeting with Phoenix. Give everybody excited who doesn't want to go to Dallas ever again. We have a meeting with Phoenix, Arizona, to see if they have a venue for us. And then I come back. I'm home for 3 days, and then I go to Atlantic City to get ready for the AC event and the ESPN show. And then I come back from that. I'm home for 4 days, and then I go to the UK NXL event. It all sounds like
Sky Team
until you're doing it. Sky Team. There you go.
Sky Team. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was the ICPL in Dallas this weekend?
It was brutal. Brutal.
How was the weather? How was the weather?
I'm not gonna lie. You know, Texas is tricky, and not everybody's gonna comment on that. But like, we showed up, and it was we had a really bad storm on the Monday that we were setting up, right? So, and my crew, you know, they're out there sludging through the mud. They were ready to kill me. That was bad, right? So we fight all through to get the event ready through that storm. We had no power at my hotel for 2 days. All the while we're trying to negotiate this ESPN thing. So that was not probably the best use of my time, filling in holes at a field. And then it started to get better. Like on Thursday or Friday, it was beautiful out. And the field started to dry up, and we had some pretty good fields. Jason did a great job on the hyperball field, in my opinion. And we had made some big strides. And then Saturday morning, Jason calls me around 6 a.m. and he's like, "We're flooded." And I thought he was messing with me because it was it hadn't rained, but apparently they had released the dam. So, and since Jed's in a little bit of a floodplain there, you say a little bit lightly, the water had come up quite a bit to make that extra enjoyable. So we postponed one of the games to one field. We rebuilt that field kind of quick, and so we were back up and running for noon. And a big shout out to our crew and the referees. We didn't miss a beat. We still finished roughly on time. Everybody still got all their games, albeit a little wet and muddy.
So let's shift and talk about the schedule a little bit. Just because obviously we're talking about weather. So we've kind of been a proponent of like, let's not go to Texas sometime between the beginning of March and really the first week of June. That's not a good time to be in Texas. Are you guys going to, are you going to move the schedule around so we can?
We are not going to Texas again from May to June. From
great. January to June.
All right.
How's that for a bolder statement? I am not. So people can stop chiming in and telling people that I'm an idiot. It's Texas has won for sure. We are not going back to Texas.
Well, hopefully you go back to Texas.
Man, we've got a bunch of firsts.
Don't go during that time period. Yeah,
we're not going to go during that time period. Yeah,
don't go during that time period.
It was tough, and and everybody's always like, we were here all weekend in this mud. And I'm like, yeah, we've been here for a month. And I left, I left on Sunday night because obviously I had this project that I was trying to finalize today. And I drive everywhere. So I left Sunday night, but my crew is still there. You know what I mean? They're there cleaning up all that stuff in that mud. So we by no want to do this in the mud. We have no desire to do this in the mud. I thought June we were going to be safe. No, we cannot do an event in Washington, Oregon, or Idaho. You have plenty of land because there's no people there. So everybody
There
that's
you go,
going to
Ryan.
say something to me, draw an 8-hour circle around it and then count how many people are in it. And that's how we decide where we're going to go to some level. Obviously, weather has something to do with it as well. And tier 1 airports, that's the other thing. You don't really have tier 1 airports in Idaho.
I do love the Pacific Northwest, though. Love going
I
up there
think it's
to
beautiful.
go look at
I did a
waterfalls.
UWL up there. I think it's an amazing place, but it is a challenging place to get to for the rest of the world.
And I think we've answered this question before, but in fact, I'm pretty sure we have, and it was about. I'll let you chime in, but from my understanding, the reason those haven't been there, at least for a little bit, is because of size. Like there just aren't fields that can support it.
Right.
Correct. This is the question about Europe. I see these things pop up, and I don't know if I'm supposed to pay attention to them or not. So yeah, Charlie, our goal is to add these other divisions as soon as we can. Logistically, it just hasn't been possible because the fields didn't exist. But we are working with some fields to build up to that. And I'm actually, when I am in the UK, the day after the UK, I fly to go look at some venues in Europe to see if they're going to work for us. So yeah, we would like to expand those divisions as soon as we can. I mean, we've actually, I'm really happy with where Europe's at. As far as I think the pro teams are doing amazing. I think we had some great paintball the last event. I think there's some optimism there that didn't exist before. So I'm pretty excited about it. So yeah, we want
Portugal. That venue looked beautiful.
It really
beautiful.
Beautiful. Pedro, Estratigo, Tomahawk, whichever one of the brands he wants us to shout out to. He did an amazing job there. I mean, he put it out. He did a good job there. So I was very impressed. So he's a guy, and that's why we like going to these parks and working with these guys. He's passionate about the game. He's been around forever. So he sometimes, when we've been in it for a long time, it's easy to go along the easy path, and he wanted the event. We talked about it, and he did a crazy amount of work, which you'll probably never get that money back. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's the only time I've been to a paintball event where everybody thanked the venue. I don't know if I've ever been somewhere with everybody on the award stage thank the vendor. We like to thank our sponsors. We would like to thank our wives. We would like to thank whatever, and we would like to thank this amazing venue because he done a lot of work. A lot of work.
That's incredible. So how are the numbers looking for AC Atlantic City? Are they looking? Are they keeping up on par with the events from last year? So
they're definitely on par with the events from last year. I mean, we're seeing record numbers, right? World Cup was huge. Vegas was huge. Texas was huge. I mean, Vegas was the largest non-World Cup ever in the history of time, right? So I saw some people online are saying, Tom's saying this, but he just means since the NXL, and I'm like, no, this is since forever. This is the largest non-World Cup event. And then the Texas event was the largest second event and the largest event ever in Texas. And then so Atlantic City is not keeping up to those paces, but it's still going to be larger than last year's Atlantic City, right? Or Philadelphia. So, and we fully expected a little bit of a drop off, because we had an expensive venue, which is Vegas, and expensive for the teams and all that stuff. And if you were going to pick a one go-to event, I think Vegas would have been that event. And so we saw record numbers there. And then I expected Texas to go down a little bit, but that went through the roof. And then so we were expecting a pretty good drop off at Atlantic City. And now that event's doing really well. So we're pretty excited.
It's a great question. There seems to be some confusion when discussing MLPB and the NXL, like they're different entities. Do you plan on consolidating this into one entity? I think it would help. Great question.
So that is a great question. And as of right now, no. So the NXL is a brand, but it is also a format. X-Ball is a format. I think Bianca's locked up, by the way. The X-Ball is a format. So when you talk about the National X-Ball League, that is that format of that way of playing paintball. So Major League Paintball is all encompassing, and as we move down the TV world, we may end up kind of creating a Major League Paintball Pro Division or something along those lines. But for right now, we want it to be all encompassing, right? So that if you wanted to play Classic 10-man or we wanted to showcase that could be under the Major League Paintball brand, or so could a 3v3 or some other type of format to keep it under there. So for right now, we're keeping it separate. If you think about it, think of it like the Olympics, right? So there is the Olympics, but then they have ice hockey in the middle of it, or sprinting, or some other different part of it. We are Major League Paintball, and the NXL is one of the games that we play.
I don't understand this question. He asked it earlier, and I said, Tom doesn't have any control over the local fields. You should ask your field owner. And he's saying, well, I am a field owner.
No. So one of the things that I really want to do, and we did in the past, we've tried in the past, is create there is no gateway tournament series, national tournament series. And that is one of the things that we want to do. And one of the things that this TV show will allow us to do is people will be able to go to our website and try and find local leagues to start playing. And so we're going to call that a gateway league. So we tried the 2v2 to be a gateway league, but obviously 2v2 is a challenging format because there's a lot of pressure. Apparently I wasn't aware of how many people were going to be afraid to play 2-on-2, but 3v3 seems to be the standard that everybody uses as a starter league. So we in the past have done some starter leagues where we kind of help them. We give them the rings or the medals for it so they can get it in bulk, and it's much cheaper to go through us. We advertise it. So if you wanted to play, you would go to our website and see where the local ones were. It just helps them, and we create graphics for them and all that kind of stuff. So that is something I want to do in 2025. We have a lot of balls in the air, but that is definitely something we want to do in 2025.
There you go, Rob. Apologize for my original response.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right. It would be we should have a better relationship with the starter leagues and try to create them. We should help fields kind of do that, so they're not out there on their own. That's the hole that we have currently, right? I think the top end is great, and I think the bottom end is great, but that next step is kind of an invisible line, right? So if you went and played rental and you bought a gun, your next step is really you would have to either go scenario or try and jump into tournaments. And tournaments, even a D5 tournament is challenging.
I'm noticing though, like USXBL, WCPPL, I think even the MXSL now have like a D6 3-man. So they are
starting that for sure.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend now that the kind of the major promoters are really starting to understand that there needs to be another entry point besides D5 5-man.
But in my opinion, this is my opinion, the best person to do that job is the field owner. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that interact with the consumers. They're the ones that know where they're at. So, and we'll use Mike Himman, for example. Mike Himman's a tournament guy. He runs an amazing tournament series, right? Two of them. And it saw huge growth in Texas this year, right? Does an amazing job. But he's never going to be the soft touch guy that's going to help, and I shouldn't say he's never going to be, but he's not designed to be that guy, right? His business is to run super competitive tournaments and kind of make that happen, right? Same with us, right? You really need a field owner worried about that beginner customer and kind of bringing them up through the ranks, and then turning them over to Mike, and then turning them over to us. That's the long-term goal, the way I see it, right?
Right.
You need someone.
I went down to the USXBL 2 weeks ago. It was amazing. Like, he's gone out and bought 20 by 20 tents, the big white tents like you guys use. He's gone out and bought probably 25 of them, and he has them all. I mean, it looks like a major event. Like, it is it's beautiful what he's done down there. So good.
I had a talk. I had a person at the event that I was kind of giving some grief to for posting negative stuff online. And I was like, the most important people we have are the promoters. I shouldn't say the most important, but there's some things you need to have a paintball event, right? So you need the teams, but you also need someone willing to take the sweat equity and the financial equity risk to throw these things. And it's almost always a passion project. I always use Wrangle as an example, right? He came in there and put his heart on the line and just did everything he could to grow paintball in Texas. And people start giving you grief, it starts getting old, you know what I mean? And when we lose those guys, we lose a little hole. D-Day went away. Dwayne from D-Day went away. He's a promoter. And we haven't refilled that hole when D-Day went away. So as we haven't. God, I see you giving that face there.
Well, not with one event, but like now, and I do that because I live in Oklahoma, and so I'm very familiar with D-Day. I went 16 times or whatever. D-Day had gotten to a point where players wanted more than just the game, and so now there's like 3 or 4 scenarios around here during that time period. So it has been replaced just not by one event.
I just don't think the numbers have ever gone back to where they were, though. I could be wrong, but I doubt there's 5,000 people transcending into the Southwest there.
There were 2,500 was really the largest event he ever had. And I know that because I sold paint to his biggest years. I heard the numbers he was telling people, and I know how much paint we sold.
The number that I got was the 5,000. Yeah,
never, not even close. Yeah. Not even close.
Well, I will stand corrected, but I still believe promoters are a key part of what we do.
No, totally. Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm just saying other promoters have come in. The SE guys and other promoters have come in, and they have taken that wallet share didn't go away. It's still here.
And it's just like the teams, right? So there's always the guy on the team that builds the team that is responsible for making sure everybody gets there. That guy's super important. When they go away, that team typically just kind of dissipates.
Yeah. I apologize, guys. Mike keeps having power outages. Just why he keeps popping in and out.
Sorry, we got some storms coming through.
I do too. We're literally under a tornado watch right now. So it's chaos here in Oklahoma. So going back to kind of the schedule, one thing I wanted to say to you about the Northeast, it seems to have kind of, and I know the third event statistically, unless it was in Chicago, has always been kind of the smallest of all of them. Is the Northeast, are we sold on the Northeast? That's where we're trying to continue to go, or is there a possibility of looking at somewhere like Memphis?
So let's rewind. Not going to Memphis, but let's rewind. We can take Memphis
Nashville?
right off that way.
How about Nashville?
Well, let's rewind. So first off, the third event historically is always the largest event. Used to be the largest event of the season, other than
when it was Chicago, right?
When it was Chicago.
Right. That's why I said unless it was in Chicago.
So, it's almost always been in Chicago until we started, right? Then we moved it. But you used to see the fourth event used to have literally there was a Riverside event that had 71 teams.
Yeah.
Right. So the fourth event used to be the one that took the huge hit. So what we did was we switched Chicago to September, and then we moved the June event to the Mid-Atlantic. And they're within a couple team numbers of each other, right? Because the fourth event, typically people are taking off because they know where they sit in the standings and they start to save up for World Cup. But I can't envision a world where we are not trying to keep something in the Mid-Atlantic. There's just, when you talk about density of players and teams and all that stuff, the Northeast is definitely the place. Now, I do think, and we tried this early on, I do think something like in Ohio, you could use Ohio to pick up the Northeast and the Midwest to kind of do something like that. But, everybody chimes in with these little decisions, right? Like they're just whatever, you know what I mean? Just like, let's just throw it and see what happens, It would be devastating if we had a 71 team tournament because we picked a bad location.
Yeah.
Literally devastating, right? So, and it's weird. So Mike wants Nashville. I love Nashville, right? And there's a chance we could go back to Nashville. But when we did Nashville, it was one of our lower turned out events. And it was cheap. I'm dying for a $71 a night hotel event. You know what I mean? But it's kind of weird. People didn't really buy in. Now, our numbers are also a little jaded, right? Because we're using past numbers. and we weren't where we are at today back then, right? So whereas the PSP may have done 71 teams at Riverside, maybe we would do 230. I don't know. But they struggled, and that makes me afraid to try it.
Right.
Yeah, I meant Nashville.
Let's give everybody why Texas is always the second event. So, because I put a lot of thought into this past week as I'm driving home covered in mud. So historically, we always start on the West Coast because that is the way. I mean, it's not just us. I'm talking NPPL in the Woods days, NPPL into the Chuck Hench days, and WDP. The PSP had a completely different schedule for a while, but then they went to the traditional schedule, and then we honored the same schedule. Is you start out west because that's the best weather in cold parts of the year. You come to Texas because your trucks are already out west, and you're starting to bring them back east. You come to Texas as the first or second event, right? That's been the PSP thing for a long time. And then you go to either the MAO or Chicago, and they've always chose Chicago because, once again, it's en route, right? You're moving the trucks only once. And you're not backtracking. And then you do the MAO, which historically for them has either been Philly or down South Carolina. And then they would end in World Cup, and then they start the season all over again. And we've been emulating that exact system. I like to stay in Florida twice, right? Because you go to World Cup, we leave our stuff there. We do an ICPL in January, and then we do the first event of the year at Florida. But we were starting to see a drop off in teams with we called it Florida fatigue, and so that's why we decided to go to Vegas. And we did see the big boom to Vegas. And the one thing that everybody forgets is we are a tour to try and make sure that everybody can experience professional paintball. So when we were in Texas, there was a kid there that lived 12 miles away from Garland, and he was playing in the kids division. He actually played off the wall. He had no idea who I was. I was asking him questions, and he was looking at me like I was a crazy person. But he was 12 minutes away. You know what I mean? So that's why we come there. So he gets a chance to experience the NXL. Now, I'm not going to argue that whatever time we went there, historically, it's been a good time. So we will fix that. But there is a reason. There is a method to the madness.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a good argument. There's no argument. No argument. I think you should stay. I think you should be in Texas. Just don't go to Texas.
But I mean,
from March to June.
Pick a big
Mid-June.
city other than Orlando that is good in April, May.
Yeah.
People are going to start chiming in, but I mean, you're gonna end up some fringe place. You're gonna end up in Phoenix, New Mexico, something like that. I mean, it's a challenge because you can't tell me. I mean, there's this whole, what is it? April showers bring May flowers. That is not a Dallas saying. That is the United States.
Yep.
I mean, and anybody that chimes in that says something about like hurricane season. Hurricane season is from June 1st to November.
Yeah, Michael Adams says Vegas, which I kind of agree with, like the first event being in Florida, maybe, and the second event being in Vegas, or I guess you could even flip it, and then do Texas at the end of June, and then do your Northeast, and then do Florida.
That could work.
Because then you're still doing your 2 in Florida, 1 in Vegas, 1 in Dallas, 1 in the Northeast, and then you're back in Florida.
You got a pretty good star you got going there.
Yeah,
star. That's not a good thing.
Well,
not a good system. I mean, we're going to look at it, right? But go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was just going to say, perhaps instead of the Northeast, right, the Philadelphia, Atlantic City, what about things you were talking about being on your way there from, say, Chicago? What if we went to somewhere like Cleveland or Indianapolis? That kind of, you're still keeping your pattern.
That is number one. Take Denver out, John Moran. We are very interested in the Ohio area. Cincinnati is I think 6 hours from something like 60% of the population, the U.S. population.
Okay.
So Denver, just so everybody says, Denver's horrible, right? No offense to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I love Denver.
One airport, and then there is nothing around Denver, right? There's north of Denver is Wyoming, right?
Yeah. I love Denver, but yeah.
I love Denver. My family lives in Denver, right? So
I love it
grew
because
up
I
in
got to win
Colorado.
a tournament there.
I lived in Colorado
I
Springs.
remember
but it's-
07 Denver, yeah, MPPL.
Yep, but it's a challenge to get to for people driving, right? So let's just use Ohio, right? It's 6 hours from Chicago and 6 hours from Baltimore, right? And then everything in between.
Yeah.
So our players typically drive about 6 to 8 hours, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to pick up that market. And, all of our hardcore people, all of the people that are going to have the ability to kind of chime in and give us the options on venues, they're usually the people that are flying regardless.
Yeah.
But you will see a drop off if you go to a place that's a fringe place.
Well, so right now for Atlantic City, there's 272 teams signed up and 168 paid.
Yep.
That seems larger than last year at this time.
Right now, it's on track to be larger than
doubt.
last year. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. We're crushing last year's numbers, but it's not going to crush at the same percentage that Vegas did or Texas did. How's that? So the growth is not the same as it was. I mean, we've already done almost 600 teams this year. I mean, that's
Right.
Some leagues do that in a season. We've already done that. We're not even at the halfway point.
So how do you think, so going back to the ESPN thing, so how do you think getting new viewers, is there going to be some sort of connection to how people can go find local fields? Like, will there be some way, or is the idea hopefully that people will watch the show on ESPN and then start Googling their local fields?
So one of the ads that we're going to have on there is going to be for Major League Paintball is the plan. I shouldn't swear to say that that's a fact, but so one of the plans would be that we will be the landing page to kind of redisperse that out. So if you're a field in the store, make sure you message me. You're probably going to be getting a call in the next couple of weeks anyhow. So we have a field finder already on the NXL site. We're going to move that over to the Major League Paintball site. We're going to call all the stores and fields that we have on there to validate them to make sure they're real. And then we are going to go through the process of trying to make sure everybody's on there so that they can book. They can reach out to those fields directly. They wouldn't be booking through us, but they would be reaching out directly through them.
That's great.
Excellent.
Make a note of that.
Sorry about the power outages I keep experiencing.
It's okay.
Gotta love living in the country.
Could there be a form or something, like a job form on Major League Paintball where stores and fields could just go to that, fill it out, and submit it?
Good idea.
For sure, yes. We will have that. Save them from emailing me. Don't email me yet.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't email me.
I mean, really simply, they could then just be, you could Google them and see, are they legitimate? And if they're legitimate, you add them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we will call everybody once, right? Just to make sure they have a real phone.
Like a phone.
Yeah. We'll make sure that they're an actual, there's got to be some barrier to entry.
So my question kind of leads me into this one. So with the growth that you guys are already experiencing, and I think anybody who's been to an NXL this year has kind of experienced this, like we seem to be sort of popping at the seams as it relates to parking, and, it already is kind of a traveling circus, as you say. How much more growth do you think the league could sustain and still be able to do one weekend events like you're doing now?
So something's going to have to give, right? So,
Yeah.
So the World Cup, we're going to sell the World Cup out this year. I don't want to scare people, but we are going to sell out. It's not even a question, right? And we don't have any more space to grow, right? So and I met with Garland while I was at the ICPL event on that Tuesday. I met with the mayor and his team or whatever, and one of their suggestions, because they said the same thing, right? Their actually biggest complaint about our event was that we parked on the side streets. We parked in the neighborhood, and there's no real way for us to manage that, right? But their suggestion is, they said we're like the only sporting event of our size that just shows up, that doesn't have a stadium, that isn't doing some type of busing system to get their people in. So they're like, they would designate a parking lot at a high school or something that they control, and then supply bus service back and forth. So it's so far from ideal for us because of the amount of gear and stuff that we bring back and forth. But it's something we're going to have to start thinking about, right? Whether we cap the amount of cars a team can have. We say, look, everybody gets 2 cars to park. Because right now we don't even know. My biggest fear, especially with World Cup, was, like you're showing up for your 3 o'clock match and we are just full. There is nowhere to park, right? Because, 3 kids came in 3 different cars and they took your spot and they're just going to go buy a head wrap from the do guys, whatever. We want to make sure every team has a designated spot. And so if we said every team gets 2 cars, 3 cars, whatever the number is, I can then allot a certain amount of cars to a lot and say, hey, we're guaranteed that every team can park. And then everybody else that's coming is going to have a shuttle. Something along those lines. But, I mean, we're a victim of our own success. We're just too big. And if you think about it, that's another thing. I looked at an overview of Phoenix, right, because we are investigating Phoenix. And the PSP, even with that small event, had almost the same amount of fields we have. And that's because they weren't using split deck. So if we weren't split deck, Texas would have been a 15-field event. We just don't have that kind of space anymore. So there's something happening. People feel free to chime in and send me your ideas. But either we're going to have to add another week, of the season, to kind of make it so teams can fit in. And that's one of the ideas with the Opens, right, where we would say, only West Coast teams can play this and only East Coast teams can play this, something along those lines. Also to stop teams from California having to fly to Philly and incur that cost, and teams from Philly flying to California to incur that cost, or Vegas, right? Try and restrict some of these events to just local teams. Those are some options, but yeah, we don't have a solution yet, but we are thinking about it.
Well, even the World Cup venue, seems like, from a parking perspective, like it is maxed out.
It is maxed out.
Okay,
yes.
So it's not just perspective. It is, in fact, maxed out.
It is that event is maxed out for sure.
Okay.
Very stressful.
Yep.
So again, even if you break up kind of those Opens, you still have all of those teams at World Cup who are going to come together, right?
So, I went to the Axe Throwing Championships, and so almost everyone else's championship is the opposite of ours, where they actually restrict the amount of people that come, right? So
only so many people you have to qualify, right?
Yeah. At some point in time, we may have to do something along those lines. It just, nothing sucks for us. Let's just say you're the last place pro team, right? Nothing like not getting to go to World Cup because you're not part of that division, And maybe we just add another day, for every day that we add is 600 minutes of paintball, right, per field. So if we have 10 fields, that's 6,000 more minutes a day to add a day. So, and I think historically we used to be longer. There was a time when the PSP, I think, was 2 weekends.
So then would you stagger? You'd stagger the divisions where, okay.
So ahead of me there. In a perfect world, from my point of view, we would do something very similar to what used to happen in pre-2002 and before, right? If you think about it, 2002, if you went to the World Cup, were either of you two playing in 2002? Ryan was, right? Yeah. So you would go and you would play 5-man for 2 days, and then you'd play 10-man for 3 days. And and it's so funny because, like, the old guys, when I talk about team numbers or whatever, they're like, you're adding all these weird divisions in. And I'm like you guys didn't? Like, we didn't have 5-man and then 10-man? You think they were completely different people? They were the exact same people. You showed up early to play the 5-man, and then you stayed and played the 10-man. And about, 3 of your guys that had real jobs couldn't make it. But they would show up and play the 5-man, right? So in a perfect world, that would be kind of how we would do that, and just make it a little longer. And that very first event that I did like that's when I decided this is what I wanted my job to be, because you were there all week, so it was like you played an event, then you got ready for the next event, you played the next event, and then you had to go back to work on Tuesday or whatever. It was very depressing. So I like the week-long thing of paintball, right? It's a paintball festival, something to look forward to all year. So, but yeah, we have some challenges in the future, but they're all good challenges, right? We're not struggling to get
problems.
Great problems.
Great problems. Yeah.
Great problems. let's yeah. So I want to go. My wife's got dinner ready, but on a closing note, we can go back to talking crap about me and the NXL and everything that we do after August. Let's give us a little window till August to keep things positive, and let's promote this ESPN thing, and then we can go back to our little warring factions.
Yeah. I think your first problem is going to be the divisional teams not playing on the pro field on Sunday. You're probably going to have plenty of people talking shit about that. And I get it, but the reality is that's 3 hours of one tournament that are needed to do this. So
yeah, this is not a negotiation. I mean, we may rebuild something a different way moving forward. We just didn't have time to pull some audibles, right? And once we see what they need out of the production, we could probably replicate that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl, right? We're filming this like it's the Super Bowl, so we're not gonna. There's no reason to have someone else out there trying to convolute it up or mess up the grass or whatever. It's just not worth reward isn't worth it. So.
Well, I don't speak for everybody, but thank you. We appreciate you and your team's hard work and effort and energy getting this deal done and continuing to push us in the right direction. It's not just the ESPN thing. It's all the things that you guys are doing. We know, especially Mike and I, because, we have a relationship with you and Kevin, and we hear all the things that are going on in the background. We know how hard you guys work and all the sacrifices made with family and time with your spouse and being at home and being on the road all the time. I mean, that shit gets old. I did it for 10 years and I was done with it. So
yeah, my flight tomorrow's at 6 a.m.
All right. Well, we're going to let you get out of here, but thank you.
Eat and go to bed and get up and start it all over again.
All right, buddy.
And hopefully I come back with some good venue options.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yep. I love Phoenix. Congratulations. Talk soon.
Yeah. All right, bud. Thank you guys very much.
Outstanding.
Right.
What an incredible announcement. So what? ABC app, the Ochos, ESPN at AC. August is going to air on August 2nd and 4th on the Ochos of ESPN, the AC event. Wow. Okay. You couple that with the fact that we are not going back to Texas in June next year. You heard it here first.
Actually, you said January to the first week of June.
Yeah.
January to the first week of June.
It might be.
So.
But absolutely incredible announcement. ESPN, Major League Paintball. Everybody, the team that Major League Paintball is doing a tremendous job. We talk about grow the sport. You got those out there who are hashtagging it, then you got those out there who are actually doing the work, and it's impressive. So,
yeah, we talked about this, I think, last year in October, November. I kept talking about it's in the feet, right? Like the growing something or the work, it's in the feet, right? It's not in the fingers and hashtagging things. It's in the feet, not in the mouth. It's in the feet.
Right.
You got to go do it. So yeah, they've done an excellent job. And again, this is some of the things you and I've been talking about, being responsible and doing the right thing. And, we're going to have lots of eyes on us around Atlantic City and on all the pages. It's going to be pretty awesome. Right. We get to have real media people around us. And I don't want to say that disrespectfully to our media guys. I'm just talking about the mecca of sports media is going to be at one of our events. And that's a huge deal. So really exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I have talked about this and I'll shut up here in a minute, but it's we keep talking about how we are in the golden age of paintball. Everyone talks about how it was at this time. We're in a resurgence, a renaissance. It's the next golden age, whatever. But no one can argue with the fact that we are seeing tremendous success in the Major League Paintball just by team count. Now these great moves with our new advertisers. Now this move to ESPN. All this stuff that's happening. I think everybody should be pretty happy with the way we're moving. In what directions we're going.
Totally. Yeah. Certainly should be, right? Certainly should be. Very exciting. Appreciate Tom coming on. And if Kara, if you watch this later, thanks for letting us have him for an hour or so. It's funny when you said it's going to be like 45 minutes. I was like, there's no way it's going to be 45 minutes. It's going to be an hour at least.
It could have been 45 minutes. And his wife wanted to know what, come on. So
sure.
Being respectful.
Yeah. No, I understand. Well, big deal. That was awesome. Really exciting. And again, Tom's, he works his ass off. I hope people who do talk shit understand how hard the guy works, and the decisions that are made are not just Tom. It's, Major League Paintball and the NXL. There's a lot of people involved, and they're just trying to make the right decision for the majority of us. So, so far they've done the right things. Right. So, when you get to the end of the show, can you recap the bullet points? We just did, Christian. We just recapped. Do it again, Mike.
AC, Atlantic City is going to be on ESPN, all right? August 2nd and 4th on the TV show, on the ESPN's channel, The Ochos. So be sure to check that out. They average about 200,000 viewers. It's up to you guys, all of us, to come together as a community, and we want to crush those numbers. So get the word out. Don't keep it a secret. Tell everybody to tune in. As soon as we know what time it's going to be on, we'll be advertising it everywhere. So spread the word.
Yeah. So, AC finals. It'll be the AC Pro finals. I have a feeling we'll hear about some I don't want to say rules, but recommendations from the league about the speed of each one of those points, and how quickly they want it to happen. So, really exciting stuff. So, you got anything else?
Blind layout, supposedly fast.
Right. Yeah. So that's the other thing you kind of missed, maybe, Christian. We got the confirmation that that the NXL Lone Star Major finals will be played on Thursday. Then it will be a blind layout for the pros. Supposedly very, very fast layout. Hopefully very, very fast layout, because as a coach, I love those. I like ballistic. I think that's it. I think those are the bullet points of what you missed. New sponsor for the show, and Mike and I are the newest professors for BKI Paintball. We'll have a link soon. You guys can go on, and if we do a clinic with you, we'll probably suggest things from BKI, so you should be a member if you're not a member. We're going to start helping to freshen up some of the content that's on there and help move that thing along as well. Anything else?
No, I think that's got it. We talked about our new sponsor, BKI. Of course, our current sponsor, Max Sportswear. We don't want to forget to mention them. Obviously, we're not going back to Texas next year in June, the second event. That was another comment. And then the ESP announcement from Tom Cole. And he's looking at new venues. Like, he's flying out to Phoenix. He's considering the Midwest. He's considering the Northeast. So lots of things happening, people. By the way, thank you to all the people in the chat tonight, whether you were on Facebook, YouTube, or in the private chat. Thanks to everyone for tuning in and listening. We greatly appreciate it. Ryan and I really enjoy doing this, and we hope to do it some more. So,
thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Coaches Show. Thank you to Major League Paintball for support of the show, Alex Sorensen, Kevin Fillers, and Tom Cole. This show has been brought to you by Max Sportswear. When needed, get maxed, and BKI Paintball. I'm Ryan Gray with Mike Bianca. As always, be responsible.
You know what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do that? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
Got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit, because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.